Very good evening. Just had a feeling you might join us this week. Not that you don't join us every week, of course. As you'll know, we often have 2 guests in this studio on a Thursday evening, maybe even 3 guests on occasions. But when one guest has packed as much into his life, and he's only 36 years old, as my guest this evening, then really you only want the one guy in the studio, and even half of his life story would fill the entire programme. So how we're going to cope between now and 5 to 8 in covering all the ground with Curtis Woodhouse, I'm not sure. Curtis, it's a great pleasure to welcome you here to the studio this evening. It really
Thanks
is.
for having me.
And on a momentous day as well, because it's the very day that this has been published box to box. I've read it from cover to cover, can thoroughly recommend it. The autobiography of Curtis Woodhouse, and it's just not a 2-a-penny sporting book. Bland it is not.
Yeah.
How you go from Premier League footballer to British champion boxer, and it's not a smooth progression by any means. It must have left you with a few regrets. Yeah, or not?
No, I mean, like everybody always, you know, I listen to a lot of people give interviews about parts of life, and they always end with, yeah, no regrets. And, you know, I'm opposite. I've probably got a million. There's a million things I wish I'd have done differently.
Yeah.
And, you know, summing up my football career is something that's difficult for me, because at the end of it, there's 2 words that always ring at the end of me addressing my football career, and that's what if. And I'll never get to know that what if. You know, I'd have loved to have found out how far I could have gone, how good I could have been if I'd have had the necessary mental fortitude to be able to do that. But, you know, the youth is wasted on the young, as they say. And as a young kid, I was definitely a wild child, and it took me a long while to take responsibility for it. But, you know, I'm definitely one of them that had the golden ticket and ripped it up and threw it in the bin. But yeah, I've accepted that. You know, I went for a lot of years blaming others. It was his fault. It was his fault. That manager, this manager. You know, but ultimately, once I matured as a human being, I realised, you know what, Kurt, it was your fault, pal. Nobody else's. And once I accepted that, I was ready to move on with my life.
I read this book with a range of emotions, because I remember you very well as a young player, an outstanding young player at Sheffield United, where you probably had the best years of your professional career, became a Premier League player, where you were on £4,000 a week, and it's soul-destroying at times. And I got very annoyed with you at the behaviour, the lifestyle that cost you that career. I really, honestly, I did. Yeah. But then you lifted me up again with the inspirational story of your boxing.
Yeah, I mean, you know, that's how it made you feel. Imagine how it made me feel. And I think, you know, a lot of me spiralling out of control was me being angry with myself, you know, because it didn't upset anybody more than it upset me. You know, how has it ended like this? How has it gone from being so good to being so bad? And we're talking about a short space of time. This isn't 10 years later, we're talking 3 years of me bursting on the scene at Sheffield United to pretty much being finished at 21, 22 years old. So like you said, it made you angry, you know, it made me angry. And the way I dealt with it was by, really what I did was, I really dedicated myself to self-destructing. You know, I really had a good go at it, you know, and I was focused.
Well, you succeeded.
Yeah, and I was dedicated to it, because I thought, you know what, people are saying I've done this, I've wasted this, you know, I'll show you what I can really do. You know, I'm just getting warmed up.
But at the root of it was, and for those who don't know, I'm sure you do know, that Curtis had a career that gradually nosedived from Sheffield United through Birmingham to Peterborough and 1 or 2 others. And it was just going down and down and down. How it happened? How was there not a point where you recognised what you were doing to yourself and your career?
Well, there was plenty of points that I kind of recognised, but I was too far gone. And it was very difficult to kind of snap out of a tailspin, and that I felt I was in. You know, I didn't ever think what I was doing was right. I knew pretty soon that what I was doing was wrong. But then trying to change your life at such a young age was difficult for me. You know, I'm very bullheaded. I'm very I never waver in strong winds. That's my personality. I'm very sturdy. I stick with it, good and bad. you know, and when I'm on a bad run, like I was many years ago, I find it very difficult to snap out of it. That's part of my personality.
Well, this is a story of great lows, but also very great highs, and we'll track through it in some of the stories, some of the drinking exploits, and some of the wilder things that you got up to between now and 5 to 8 in 2 parts of the show. But just coming right up to date to start with, or early in the show, Bridlington Town.
Yeah.
This is a recent development. Manager, back as a manager,
Yeah.
and it's fair to say you've had a reasonably okay start.
It's not been bad. Played 2, won 2, scored 15 goals, conceded 1.
That goal you conceded now, I must ask you about that.
It was my midfielder gave it away in a bad position. We were actually 1-0 down in that game.
Really?
Yeah, we went 1-0 down. I was 20 minutes into my reign. We were dominating the game. We went 1-0 down. I was thinking, here we go, it's going to be one of those days. But yeah, we soon hit back. And like I said, we knocked them for 7 that day. So yeah, it's been a fantastic start. You kind of, when you go into management, you're hoping to hit the ground running. But yeah, I'm an optimist anyway. But I definitely didn't dream up a scenario where we'd play 2, win 2, score 15 and concede 1. So
this was Armthorpe Welfare, that was 7-1. And I think Retford Town get a name check as well, because they were on the end of an 8-0.
yeah, and it could have been more than 8. We really
it?
dominated them, yeah. And they're not a bad side, and we put them to the sword on Tuesday night.
So is this because you've been lucky enough to inherit a great group of players, or is it because you've got this inspirational effect instantly in a dressing room?
A little bit of both, let's say. 'Cause I don't think they've won 7-1 and 8-0 before in the season. So, you know, but me personally, I think sometimes managers take a little bit too much credit and take too much stick when things are going wrong. Yeah. You know, players win football games, not managers. You know, I've not been here long enough to take the whole credit for it. You know, before I came, they had a very good manager in Gary Allison, who'd done a fantastic job. The nucleus is there of a very good squad already. It just needed sprinkling with a little bit of magic dust. Yeah. And I think I've done that so far.
Okay. Not giving away great secrets, but at the end of the book, and I think people who read my column on it in the Sheffield Telegraph last week will know, you have another footballing ambition, which you hold very, very dear. Tell us what that is.
Yeah, I mean, like, I've gone away. It's hard to explain, because if you read the book, the early parts of my life when I was a footballer, these are my thoughts and memories of an 18-year-old boy. I'm now 36, so sometimes it's difficult for me to read that back without cringing, because I'm not, that person doesn't exist anymore.
Do you think you'll ever sit and read it?
No, I don't. There'll be parts that I don't even want to read. But, you know, I say in the book that beast that I couldn't control back then is under control now. The beast, the dragon inside me is being slayed many years ago. So it is difficult for me to look back and relive them thoughts, really. But so I went away, you know, I came back into football, because football was my love, my first love, my only love.
But you fell out of love with it.
I did, yeah, and that was difficult. But I retired from professional football 11 years ago, 10, 11 years ago. So I've had a chance to go away and fall back in love with it, you know. Yeah. And a lot of it, the reason I fell out of love with it, once I've analysed it when I've come away from the game, is because I was bitter towards football. I didn't watch a football game once I retired for nearly 4 years. Not one. Didn't watch it, couldn't watch it. Couldn't bring myself to watching these people on the TV thinking, that could have been you, that should have been you. So I was bitter towards football for a long time. Once that bitterness went away, you know, deep down under all that bitterness is love. And I've always loved the game. I'm an expert in football. Football is my expertise. Boxing was just something I excelled in. But the core of me, the heart of me, is I'm a footballer, always have been.
Well, that specific ambition you refer to there is that you would like to be manager of Sheffield United one day.
One day, yeah. I went away in the summer, done my coaching badges, and part of me being the manager of Bridlington Town is to do my apprenticeship. You know, in anything you're going to do, if you build your first house, it's never a big mansion. You know, you're going to build a little one in the back garden. You learn what you're doing. And that's kind of what I'm doing now. My managerial career is I'm doing my apprenticeship. I went and did my coaching badges, and I'm now fully qualified to work up to League One, which hopefully by the time I'm ready, Sheffield United won't be in that league. We'll hopefully gone a little bit further. But yeah, my main ambition, like when I started boxing, was to be the British champion. my main ambition as a manager is to one day manage Sheffield United. Not yet, I'm a long way away from being ready from that, but that's the end game for me. Once I've managed Sheffield United and I've either been sacked or walked away after some sort of success, I'll probably won't enter the dugout again. That'll be like my British title. That'll be me done.
You had a brief apprenticeship, manager of Sheffield FC, of course,
Yeah.
in this city, now at Bridlington. And what are your thoughts on Sheffield United now? I'm sure you'd probably be the first to agree they're in very good hands with Chris Wilder as manager. What do you make of them? Have you managed to see them at all?
Old teammate of mine, Chris Wilder. I played with him actually last Sunday, and it was nice to see that I wasn't the slowest player on the pitch. Tufty definitely wins that one. But yeah, he had a sticky start. You know, if you look at the turnover of players and the squad that he inherited, I think he had 7 players when he first got here. So he had to bring his own players in. So for me, I always expected them to get off to a slow start. And now the momentum's really picking up. And one thing I will say about Sheffield United and Bramall Lane is, once you get that momentum, it's very difficult for teams to come and beat you at Bramall Lane once you've got that feel-good factor. And I think Chris Wilder's definitely brought that back. And it's been a dark 5-6 years for Sheffield United, absolutely no doubt about it. But now you're starting to see the green shoots come through. And finally, I believe that we've got the right man in charge who loves the club. And I know Chris will be working 24 hours a day to get the job right. And yeah, I'm a fan of the football club. I'm a fan of Chris, and I definitely think he's a man to get us out the doldrums.
Just before we reflect on your time there as a player, well, they had some hell of a good players, really. You played within that squad. With Steve Bruce and Nigel Spackman, I think, before that. Just before that, I'm going to ask you about Sheffield Wednesday. Now, I think it's fair to say, reading this book, you're not greatly enamoured, can I say, with the team across the city. I think you went as far as to say there was no way on earth, and I think you used a couple of expletives in there, that you would ever have played for them.
No, I don't. Hey, listen, it's a two-way street as well. You know, I'm sure they feel just as strongly about me as I do about them. So, you know, I don't make too many apologies. In fact, I make no apologies for it. The team I've got no affection for. I don't look for those scores or results. I don't really care too much about Sheffield Wednesday.
But you're not from Sheffield originally, then?
I'm not, but I came to Sheffield United in 1992 as a 12-year-old kid, and it's now in my blood.
Right.
So part of that is...
You caught the Blades bug in a very, very big way, and it won't allow you to... Have you got a view then? And Sheffield Wednesday, you might... I want to tell you, they're in the Championship. And they're pushing towards the playoffs again for the second successive season.
I won't go that far. I wouldn't say they're pushing towards the playoffs. I'll take your word for that.
Right.
I'd rather say they're languishing in mid-table.
It's all the way it's put, isn't it? Yeah, there's different ways of putting things. But believe you me, they play some very, very good football.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, all joking aside, I think it's important for the city itself that both teams are doing well. I've got a friend of mine who coaches at Sheffield Wednesday, and we always have good banter. And they have got a good side. They put together a good side. They're spending a few quid. It's a tough league, the Championship, very difficult to get out of. I don't want to see them struggle, but I also don't want to see them do well either. So I enjoy when they get beat, and I enjoyed when they lost at Wembley.
You'll allow them to get in the Premier League when Sheffield United get there?
When we're there, yeah.
Right.
I think it's always good when both teams are in the same league.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll go up this year.
Who's the good friend at Wednesday at
Chris Adam. He was my old assistant manager at Sheffield FC. He was actually an apprentice when I was at Sheffield United as well. I've known him for years. I actually met him when I was an apprentice. He was playing for the under-12s. And we were on £42.50 a week, so times were hard, friends were few. And for an extra tenner a week, you could go and referee the games on a Sunday. I'll never forget, he was playing Sheffield United against Barnsley. And Barnsley had this kid who was a little bit late. He was only 12 years old. I don't know. I might get in trouble for this, but I'll tell you anyway. And
depends what words you use.
No foul words. But yeah, they had a kid that was running around booting everybody. Only a young kid. So I said to this guy who ended up being my friend, Chris, I said, see that little number 7 for them? I said, go and boot him. I'm referee. Nothing will happen. There won't be a foul. So he went and booted him, and I was just chuckling to myself. And he says, I'm going to go and tell my dad. I said, go and tell your dad. So then after the game, I nearly came to blows with this 12-year-old's dad on the touchline.
That'll teach you.
Bearing in mind that was the last game Russell Slade allowed me to manage. Referee, sorry.
Was it Russell Slade occurs time and time again, and he, of course, is still out there in management.
Yep.
Has been in management for years and years and years.
Yep.
and he's a great guy. You know,
Yeah.
I enjoy his company. But he inspired something in you. Apart from your great respect for him, and you clearly felt that he brought your football on, you feared him. You were frightened to death of him. It's a rare combination to be frightened to death of somebody, but also really respecting them.
I think if you look at all the good managers, you know, the top managers over time, people like Brian Clough, who comes to mind, or Alex Ferguson, I think the players fear and respect him in equal measures. You know, probably the fear of you don't want to let him down deep down, and you know if you do, you know he might tear strips off you. So, and I was like that with Russell. I respected him so much I didn't want to let him down, and that's as a manager, that's a great combination to have within your players.
Is that what you try to bring in now? Did you want them to be scared of you? Because you could scare people.
Yeah,
no question.
I'm a hard taskmaster, most definitely, and my standards are set are very, very high. And if we don't reach them standards, I want to know why. And sometimes I can raise my voice in asking why.
Yeah. But you can raise a fist as well. You've been known to a few times.
Not in the dressing room. You know that. Believe it or not, I'm not really an aggressive person, but I just want to win. And if we're not going hammer and tong 100% at it, I want to know why. So I'm a hard taskmaster, but you know I'm fair. You know, if you give me everything and we get beat, there's never any complaints from me.
That guy on Twitter, he needn't to worry. He's not really an aggressive person.
Nah.
He's just revealed it's exclusively
I'm a lover, not a fighter.
Yeah, that guy in Doncaster it was, wasn't it? He's just sick of being asked about that. But anyway, I tell you what, I won't get any bad tweets at all at half time.
No, I'll be getting them all.
There won't be any, because I'll just give it to you.
Yeah, exactly.
Those times at Sheffield United, Nigel Spackman was manager for briefly, and look at the team.
Unbelievable.
Dean and Fjortoft, and then David Holdsworth came in, good friend of mine. They were packed with quality players, weren't they?
We had a great side, and as a young...
Saunders was another one.
Yeah, we had Dane Whitehouse, Mitch Ward.
Yeah.
You know, we had a great side. Vasper Bokis, unbelievable player. And as a young kid coming into the team, it was so easy for me because you're packed with quality and experience. You know, so I wasn't coming into a struggling team down near the bottom, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, he looks a bit out of his depth. I was already coming into a fantastic team, a great team spirit in that squad. I liked a night out, but they matched me as well. You know, the whole squad liked a night out. So great team spirit. Looking back at them times, I mean that's probably the best squad Sheffield United have had for a long time, with the amount of top players we had in it.
It's just a pity it was disbanded. I mean, so many players were just sold almost overnight. And
typical Sheffield United, isn't it? We always seem to, you know, self-destruct. And you look at that squad at one point, it was. I remember we were training on Thursday. We went through team shape and everything. And we worked on the game plan. I came in Friday and like 3 players had left. I'm like, what's happened in 24 hours? And I think it was Charles Green at the time who was the chief executive that just got rid of everyone, and that team expanded. And
great pity. But also self-destructed in the same. But I suppose every team did in that era. It's quite shocking to read the scale of the drinking culture, for instance, not just on a midweek night when you haven't got a midweek game. It could be a Thursday or a Friday night lead up to the game as well.
I think I wouldn't say so much Fridays, but definitely Thursdays for me personally. But I think the problem I had was when I was in the thick of all the going out and all things like that, I wasn't on my own. It wasn't just me.
Absolutely.
We'd be in town, we'd be bumping into the Sheffield Wednesday squad or the Barnsley squad or the Rotherham squad. It was the whole culture around the game at the time. The problem for me happened was when that culture died out, I stayed in the culture. So everybody else had kind of, Arsene Wenger came in and was bringing in diets and we're going to do this, we're going to do that. I was like, forget that.
You didn't move with the times.
Well, I was kind of like, well, is that going to make me pass the ball better? Or is that going to make me run faster? But ultimately, the answer was yes. But I was very pig-headed, like I explained to you earlier. I was doing it my way, and that was that, you know.
Well, and then you realised the error of your ways when you took up an individual sport in boxing, and it was all reliant on you. And in part 2, we'll talk about how you adapted to boxing, how you showed the discipline that your football lacked, and how you eventually became British champion. And people were scoffing at that. There was no way in the world that people, your coaches even, thought you could ever do that, but you did. And it's all very, very emotional in this book. It really is. It brought tears to my eyes when you actually achieved it. So we're going to be considering all of that, and I do hope you can rejoin us in 5 minutes with Curtis Woodhouse. James Gregg will round up everything else. Look forward to your company again then. See you.